Hey everybody, this is IndieGeek, and today I'm taking a look at Starguard from Vacuum Flowers. This is available as a totally free download, which I will link to in the description, of course. Sorry for the audio being quite loud. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot I can do about it. That dude's going to try and kill me, which is going to be really funny. Let me see here. That's a little better, I think. Alright, so basically the way this works is we've got kind of a side-scrolling shooter, and we're going to have a story kind of unfold for us there. So I will let you kind of like try and read along while I kind of focus on playing. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the story because I didn't play through all of it, but these first few levels, it may not seem difficult to kind of read the story along. Later, it gets much more kind of chaotic, so it gets a lot harder to actually read the story while you play. But the gist of it is kind of that we are the Starguard, and there's been like a crazy wizard that is trying to kind of like end civilization, and we're in a big war with these crazy creatures, and as the Starguard we have to kind of end all of that. Yeah, but other than that, like, that's basically what's going on with the story. For me, the biggest thing about this is the gameplay and the visual style as well. It's definitely got a minimal kind of actually gameplay and visual style, as well as sound design. The whole thing is a pretty minimal project, but that's not a bad thing at all. I think that it actually works relatively well, and it looks really nice if you ask me. I think considering how minimal everything is, all the characters and stuff have really nice animations going on, stuff like that. Even just looking at like how the shots explode and things like that, it all actually looks pretty nice, I would think. And you know, that's not always the easiest thing to do. It's such a small amount of pixels being used here. It's definitely a style that can, you know, come back to bite you if you're not gonna do it right. But this is definitely done right, and I think it looks great all the way through, actually. We'll probably only go through the first few levels, so you'll probably only get to see a few of the enemy types. But there are actually quite a few more enemy types that come along. There are 9 levels, and the first 3 or 4 are relatively short, and then the last couple are pretty long, including a fairly difficult final boss. So I'm just going to stop at each of these and kind of let you read. I'm not going to really go into reading it, though. From a gameplay perspective, it's nothing like original, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of plays out, I don't know, I get like this Metroid vibe from it, even though it doesn't have like Metroidvania elements, but the gameplay style definitely feels like playing a Metroid game. And I would say, like, I really felt it in the last boss, which was kind of almost like a Mother Brain style boss, it felt like, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know if that was intentional or if it's just kind of coincidence, but it definitely felt like I was fighting Mother Brain again, but in a very kind of minimalistic world. And, you know, I think that that's a really kind of cool thing to see done like that. As far as, like, how hard the game is, it's not that hard. It's pretty forgiving. The final boss works in a couple of forms, and the first form of the final boss is not forgiving at all. It's definitely, like, that's for sure the hardest part of the game. But for the most part, in this game, enemies that you kill stay dead, even if you die. The only exception are some of those first kind of like big, I don't know, I call them like eater monsters. I know they've got names, but I don't know them. Not these guys, but the other guys. Some of them like come out of the ground. Those guys will actually come back sometimes, but they're still not too big of a problem, honestly. Yeah, I mean, overall, like, I think it's a really polished game, and it's fun. and it is fun to play. It feels good, and it looks good in my opinion. These guys, they will sometimes come back to life in like a white form. That's like the rhino guy. He's pretty crazy. Yeah, in the white form you can still kill them, but they don't grant you any points for killing them. Yeah. So some of these sections I end up just kind of like running my way through because it works. So here we've got some squid type enemies, and all the enemies look really nice and also do very different things, which for me is like a pretty big point, because having a variety of enemies doesn't mean anything if they all behave the same way. But all of these enemies have kind of different things that they try to use on you, and it makes for a pretty engaging experience here. From a sound design perspective, there isn't a lot going on, but again, that kind of plays into the minimal nature of the whole thing. So I wouldn't really say that that's a negative at all. It's just kind of a stylistic choice. I do like that you kind of have a choice here for a lot of it on whether or not you're gonna try and fight or not. And if you can make it through the first time, it's kind of got like this Dark Souls style. Not that I'm really comparing it to Dark Souls, but it's just a good example of like, you can choose to be slow and fight the enemies, and that's probably the safer way to do it. Or you can play a little risky and try and run past a bunch of enemies. But if you mess up at any point, it's gonna catch up to you. And that definitely feels like kind of how you can choose to navigate the Dark Souls areas. So, you know, it's not like your gate here at the end is barred. I mean, all the kills get you is points, and I guess making it easier to get through the area. But yeah, it just means that you've got a lot of freedom as far as how you want to handle these situations, and I think that's really nice to have. And it's you know, it's interesting because you don't always see that. I don't think that you could get through the whole game without combat, but you can get through a lot of these areas if you're persistent without actually ending up killing anyone. Another point on difficulty is that the checkpoints are fairly frequent, so again, I would say that it's pretty easy, and with the exception of the last boss, like I said, it's pretty much set up that it's gonna be easier each time you die, because you'll most likely make some progress, kill an enemy or two each time, and that'll make it easier the next time you come back. So like you see, now those guys are gone over here, so that's just like the kind of stuff I'm talking about why it gets easier when you die sometimes. Which is, I guess it's a little interesting. I don't know if I'd prefer it like that, or if I'd rather the enemies come back. It certainly meant that, like, by the time I had fought all of the enemies once, and I was near the end of the game, I was just running through as much stuff as I could, because I knew that all the enemies got me were points, which I didn't really care about. So, I guess depending on how you look at it, that could be a negative. Oh, I got kind of a bad pattern there. I do love that sections like this exist where we can actually choose how we want to path. Oh, this is actually just to get a diamond. There are diamonds in each of the levels, so there's kind of an extra little points thing to try and get. And then, of course, added value, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you can say it's added value. The game is free to begin with, but it also has time trials for each level and a hard mode once you beat the game. So if you really, really like it, there's definitely more to keep you coming back. Yeah, overall, though, I'd say it's a really good game. I had a good time with it. Sat down, and it was, you know, a nice game to finish in a sitting. And, you know, just kind of give me some nice side-scrolling platform shooter gameplay. So I guess if you are into this kind of thing, I would definitely suggest that you follow the link below, download it for yourself, and give it a shot. Because I certainly liked it, and I think that you will too. But I think that is all that I have to say for today. So, as always, feel free to comment if there's anything that you would like to comment about. subscribe to the channel to see more videos from me every single day. And lastly, if you liked the video, then please do consider clicking the like button, because that helps me a great deal. But with that, I think that we will bring this to a close. So as always, I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.